So you want to learn how to use electronics, but you're not sure where to get started, and maybe you don't have a whole lot of the equipment. I'm going to show you how you can get started using a virtual circuit simulator using Tinkercad. Electronics can be a really great skill to learn and a lot of fun with the right projects, but it can end up costing you a lot if you're not sure what you need to buy. That's where virtual simulators come in, like Tinkercad. You might be familiar with Tinkercad's 3D printing module, but they also have another one called Circuits, which allows you to prototype and try out electronic components. Not only that, but it allows you to use an Arduino board, which is a small microcomputer that you can program. This is a great way to learn about electronics and prototype your designs without spending any money at all. To start using circuits, you need to create a free Tinkercad account. You can do that by navigating to tinkercad.com and choosing the Join Now button. Once you're signed into your account, you can head over to the Circuits option up the top. Here you can choose the Try Circuits option, which will give you a tutorial, or if you want to jump straight into it, just click the Create New Circuit button. Once your project is loaded, you'll see on the right-hand side there is a list of components. If I go ahead and click on the All button, it's going to break it down into different categories. By choosing the drop-down box from the top right, we can choose the Starters and Basic section, which will show a set of pre-made circuits. For instance, this first one here is just a simple LED light. So every circuit has a power source, a positive and a negative, and then a component. This one also has a resistor in between, and this is going to create the circuit. Once we have our circuit created, we can choose the Start Simulation button in the top right, and we can see that the LED has now turned on. For a more complicated example, we've got one here that has a potentiometer, which is this little dial. Turning this left and right is going to make the LED brighter and dimmer. So for today's project, I'm going to show you how you can create a motion-activated alarm system. What we need for this is our Arduino microcontroller, which is going to control our alarm system and also provide power. We need a component that can detect movement, and for that I'm going to use a PIR sensor which uses infrared. And we need a speaker system to be able to create the sound. I'm going to use this little piezo speaker. And lastly, I'm going to use a breadboard to bring all these components together. A breadboard is a series of connected pins that can be used to plug in components. This black line is used for the negative. We have a positive rail, and then we also have smaller 5-pin sections on the top and the bottom. Anything that has a green circle on it means that they are all connected together. So this positive rail is connected all the way along, and these 5 pins are connected from the top to the bottom on line 18, and then there also has a separate one underneath as well. So just like our previous circuit example, we need to have a positive and a negative power connection to create our circuit. To get that, we can use the 5-volt and the ground pin from our Arduino. I'm going to go ahead and click on the 5-volt pin and connect that down with our power rail. Choose the ground pin and connect that to our negative rail, and change these colors to match, so black and red. I can then connect the power and ground pins on my infrared sensor to these same rails. Change those as well, black and red. And then for the last pin, which is going to be the signal pin, which is going to show us when it detects motion, we need to put that into the Arduino so that we can read from it. So I'm going to go ahead and click the signal pin, click a few more times to make some curves, and connect this one to digital pin 2. So our signal is going into this pin and we can read from there. So now we're ready to test our infrared sensor to make sure it's working correctly. To do that, we need to add some code onto our Arduino. So I click the Arduino and click the code button. And I have some code already on here, which I've already made. Basically what's happening is it's saying print the value of digital pin 2 to our serial monitor, which is this little monitor down here. You can show and hide it by clicking this button. And if we click the start simulation button, it's currently printing 0. So it means it's not detecting any movement. If I select the sensor, it shows us this kind of arc on the screen, which shows the range that it can detect from. And then this dot is the current position. If I move this dot around, it's going to trigger and change that value to 1. I can move off, move around, and it stays as 0, go back in, and the motion detector is triggered. Our next statement here says that if the digital pin is high, which is the same as equaling 1, so high is 1, low is 0, then we need to trigger an action. And in this action, I'm going to drag on the play speaker button. So play speaker on pin, we need to choose a pin for our speaker. I'm going to set this one to something like pin 4. So it says play speaker on pin 4 with tone 60 for 1 second. So right now it won't trigger anything, so we need to hook up our speaker. So what I'm going to do with the speaker is pop it on top of the breadboard over here, and I'm going to choose the rotation button to turn it around a bit and drop it on. So the speaker has two connections, has the positive and the negative. So I need to connect my negative rail to this lower negative rail. I grab a wire, drop that on, change it to black. So now this rail and this rail are both connected. For the power, instead of going to the 5-volt rail, I'm going to instead put it on a digital pin so that we can turn it on and off. If it was on the 5-volt rail, it would just play all the time. So to do that, I'm going to use my pin 4 and connect it onto this line number 9 down the bottom and change this to a yellow. So now our speaker will receive power when that pin is turned on. So let's have a go at trying out our program now. If we choose Start Simulation, and when I move around this dot, we should see that the speaker will start playing, and when I stop, the speaker will stop. There we go. So whenever it moves, the speaker will play, and it'll pause afterward. Doesn't sound the best, but the speaker is only very small. We could certainly do a whole lot of other things to this to have it maybe beep in different intervals, but for now, I'm going to call that complete. Check out the Arduino starters examples for some more awesome projects. They have ones with LEDs, with piano sounds, with distance detectors, a whole lot of cool stuff. Give it a go, and then maybe you can transition over to some real world electronics as well. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.